Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Whitney Guilford, Media Manager for the Communications team at the NCNW, and I'm so happy to provide you with any technical assistance and to go over a few housekeeping announcements. As with all of our webinars, this will be recorded and posted on the NCNW headquarters YouTube channel. If you have a question, please be mindful of the time, make your questions brief, and place them in the Q&A section of your drop-down menu. As there will be one or two similar questions, we will consolidate them to get the best and most effective answer. This town hall will be presented every 2 weeks with an expert in the medical or healthcare field. Thank you, and I will turn it over to our co-chair of the NCNW Health Equity Committee, Ms. Shara Denton.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Shara Denton. I'm the chair of the National Council of Negro Women Health Equity Committee, and I want to welcome you all to our, I believe this is our fourth webinar, the Influenza Town Hall. We're making a lot of strides with that, and I want to welcome you all here tonight. And I want to introduce our speaker for the evening, Dr. Latasha Perkins, who is currently practicing family physician at MedStar Primary Care at Fort Lincoln, Family Medicine Residency Clinic, and assistant professor at Georgetown University School of Medicine, Department of Family Medicine, where she is the course director of community-based learning. Additionally, she serves as the director of the DC Area Health Education Center Primary Care Mentorship Program, with the aim of connecting medical and other health professional students to primary care physicians and providers who support their journey to becoming primary care professionals. She serves as a GUSOM, Student National Medical Association Chapter's Faculty Advisor. She is the co-chair of that same organization, Racial Justice Committee for Change, Wellbeing, Responsiveness, and Experience Committee, and leads the faculty development committees. Her goal is to leave a legacy that improves the general public's view of the family medicine, primary care, and minority physicians via mass communication, education, community health, and the intersectionality of all the affirmed entities. At this time, we will welcome our speaker, Dr. Latasha Perkins.
Apologies, everyone. We are having it looks like Dr. Perkins, are you okay?
Not. I thought someone else was going to bring greetings first, but no, we're just going to go ahead and keep going. I was looking at the run show. Okay, so if we can pull up my slides, I'll go ahead and jump into the presentation.
Good evening. This is Mr. Johannes. Let me just make one clerical error here. Yes, as we've been doing these influenza town halls, we have had a representative from each section of each area in the United States. This particular evening, our representative is Dr. Linda Hunt, who's representing DC, Maryland, and Virginia, and we'd like to have her come and bring welcome first.
Okay, good evening. First, let me point out what's most important, and that is that the work and the spectrum of the work that the Health Equity Committee is presenting to you this evening is vital information. All of our sections are more than 330 sections, both collegiate and community, as well as our more than 32 affiliates need this information. And so this is one more way that we hope to get the message out. And that's so critical. As you know, combined with Good Health Wins, we have a commitment for our for the future that includes health equity and includes and recognizes the importance of sharing what we know with those around us in as many ways as we possibly can. And so I hope that we are able to focus on the information that's shared this evening. My responsibilities, in addition to being national treasurer, is I'm the Maryland State Lead for Good Health Wins and the president of the Prince George's County section of NCNW. So I can tell you that our focused attention is necessary, and so I hope that you will absorb a lot of the information that's shared this evening. It is vital to our future. Thank you.
And now we are going to welcome the lovely Dr. Celavi Perkins. Thank you so much for being with us today.
No problem. I know you all will learn about me. I know deference. And Ms. Hunt, I was not gonna not let Ms. Hunt bring greetings, because it was we're very lucky to have her be on with us tonight. So we're family, so it's all good. We'll keep it rolling today. And what we're going to be talking about is Black women in the influenza vaccine and influenza virus in general. And so I'm hoping that you all have your notepads, have your questions ready, because this is going to be interactive. I'm going to go through a few slides, but the hope is when I'm done speaking that we will have a back and forth Q&A so we can dispel some misconceptions and to also talk about influenza and the vaccine in our region in general. Okay, so first, before we go to the objectives, I don't have any disclosures. I didn't put that slide in, but no financial disclosures as well. So we can go to the next slide. Thank you. So objectives today. So why am I here speaking to this illustrious group? I want to tell you about what my why is and what my background is, just so you have a little bit of a tidbit. That was a great bio, and I'm so happy and feel really honored that you all were able to read more about what I'm actually doing now. But want to give you a little background about who I am, because I'm going to keep saying we're family, but you have to know who I am and understand why doing a webinar like this is so important and is one of my true passions. Give a little general information about the influenza virus as it pertains to our region, what we saw early on in the flu season, and what we're seeing now. Its effects on our community, the Black community specifically, and how racial inequities have they affect us. We hear it all the time, but this is the forum to have a conversation about that. We'll talk more specifically about the vaccine itself, what it is, and who should get it and why. Talk about some misconceptions. And lastly, we'll talk about a special population, this population, women in general, but more so Black women, and what our role is when it comes to protecting our families from the influenza virus and getting vaccines in general. You can go to our next slide. So who am I? I am, as was stated a little bit in my bio, might have got mixed up in all the facts. This is the short and dirty of like who I actually am. I'm a family physician, licensed board certified practicing physician. So I see patients every week. I have my own patient panel, but I also teach trainees how to be physicians. And I teach medical students. So I'm a medical educator, not only in the clinic, but also at our School of Medicine. Georgetown School of Medicine is where I teach. I teach community-based learning. I'm also the faculty advisor for Student National Medical Association, which is an association for underrepresented minority medical students. Community servant, I'm an active member of my church, Mount Zion Baptist Church in Arlington, Virginia, but I'm also in a sorority. I'm also avid volunteer at local free clinics and food banks. So a servant is who I am. In addition to being a leader, you have to also be willing to serve. A wife, a mother, a daughter, a sister, cousin. So I am from a big family. So those roles take up just as much time as the 3 roles above it. Being a mother of a 4-year-old and a wife of entrepreneur, those roles also take a lot of energy. I'm the oldest of 7 children, and we'll find out more about where I'm from in a second. So the next slide, it'll say a little bit more about my educational background and where I'm from. This picture is actually me getting my flu shot last year. So I am vaccinated and I get it every single year as well as my family. So the next slide is the education. I grew up formerly a military brat, so I've been around, but I am originally from Biloxi, Mississippi. Like a lot of people from this area, I'm a transplant, but DC locals will remind you that if you're a transplant, you still have to do the things of the DMV and learn more about what we represent around here. I have a bachelor's in exercise biology with a physiology emphasis from UC Davis. I'm a medical doctor from the University of Alabama, Birmingham. I went to the Tuscaloosa campus over Roll Tide. I did my family medicine residency in South Carolina, Spartanburg, Sparkle City. If you don't know where it is, you're on 85, you go north from Atlanta. You have to cross through it to get to Charlotte. You need to come up to the DC DMV area. I got on 85 North and came on up and did my fellowship in health, media, and faculty development at Georgetown, in the Georgetown University School of Medicine Family Medicine Department, and loved it. Really loved this area, really love the diversity of this area, and that there are little pockets of everybody here. I put the National Minority Quality Forum here because I was one of the inaugural 40 under 40 in healthcare disparities. And being connected to that organization is where I got some of my facts for today's presentation. I won't be before you long, but these are two organizations that I work. I give a lot of my time to. The American Academy of Family Physicians, another one. Because family physicians, people have to know who we are and what we do. And I proudly represent the family medicine physician specialty. So all that to say, I know what I'm talking about. So let's talk about this, what the flu has done in our area. So in the next slide, we'll show a map of what the United States looks like during the flu season. So this was around November, just around Thanksgiving. This map shows how severe the flu was. In Virginia, it was among the 11 states with the highest levels of influenza, according to those numbers back in November. But as you can see, the purple, red hues are the highs, and most of the country are purple and red, right? We had a few that were yellow and green, but the populations are a little lower in that area. And also there was more vaccinations happening in that area. But this is just to show that the flu is severe, the activity is high, and that it can affect us. And in our area, this very educated, very diverse area, we still had high numbers, because you see Virginia was purple and Maryland is a very dark red, which is still high. West Virginia yellow, but DC is right in the middle of that. And so though Maryland did a little bit better than Virginia in general, we had a pretty severe flu season just last year. And when we talk about the flu season, and though Virginia was highlighted in this article that I was looking at, Maryland's numbers were also high back then. But let's take a snapshot of what's going on today. Because when you think about the flu season, we always get vaccinated in September and October, because that's when the flu season kind of starts. But the flu season continues until May, actually, is when we consider that the complete end. But it does start to dwindle pretty quickly in the spring. So look at that, the next slide. So Maryland, as of the week of February 11th, that's the latest data that we had, the respiratory illness indicator, it's going down. You know, overall respiratory illnesses have been minimal, which is usually a green, but it doesn't look green on this slide, but that usually means we're okay. But the severity indicators are what I want to look at. I took this from the Maryland government website, and 38 influenza-associated hospitalizations as of a couple weeks ago. And this is before Valentine's Day, so before folks were really connecting and socializing. We had about 38 people in Maryland who were hospitalized, 59 associated adults, influenza-associated deaths for the whole season in Maryland, and one pediatric death, which is important, and we'll talk about more. And I hope we delve into that even more when we start asking questions about getting our children vaccinated and what our role is as Black women in our community and in our families, who helps make those choices for everyone in our community. And so we're going to talk about why these numbers look low, like, oh, it's only 59 people, but they died of flu. They were, hospitalized because of the flu. And there are different, age-related complications, other comorbidities, other medical issues that may have played into it. But why did I take the time to put up these, what appear to be small numbers? And the next slide, we'll talk about why I wanted to highlight these numbers. And I'm flying through these slides, so sorry if I'm going too fast, I'm talking too fast. Please just put it in the chat if you have any questions that pop up, and we can always go back to any of these slides if we need to. The reason why I wanted to put up the Maryland, and I'm gonna pause a moment for you to take a look at this slide. This slide, this headline is "Flu Hitting Black Americans Particularly Hard" from the U.S. News and World Report. Hospitalization data points out the chasm between the flu impacting Blacks versus whites. So the original image that was connected to this article showed the curves back in December when this article ran, December 1. I chose to go on the CDC website and get the image, for the latest image that would represent February for a reason. Because what the truth is, the numbers, though the gaps between the lines changed, the highest number was still the Black population. We are always hit particularly bad. We're always hit the worst. So when you saw those numbers earlier of 38 folks that were hospitalized in the last week, chances are most of those were Black people, were Black Americans. And why is that? And I want to make sure that today, I'm not going to tell you why that is. I want us to talk about why we think that is. Some of it, has to do with some of the misconceptions around the flu vaccine itself, around the flu virus itself. And I want to make sure that we're able to talk about those misconceptions and address them head on. Keeping in mind, no question is too silly. No question is irrelevant. No question no question is too small for you to ask tonight or to ask your physician in general. And I find, at least in my practice with Black Americans, I generally have to pull it out. I'll sit here and, do you have any questions, and pause and wait, because generally you just come to the doctor, do what you have to do and roll out. But when it comes to things like vaccines, we have questions, we have concerns and hesitations, but we generally don't bring them up because we don't feel like either we don't want to have the conversation or we don't think it's important enough to have the conversation with our physician. And I hope after tonight that changes. But we are always hit the worst. And we need to talk about that and see what we can do to change that. And that's some of the work this committee is doing. So hopefully we can talk about that a little bit more today. We can go to the next slide. So the flu vaccine, I just want to give you some basics of what it is. It's a quadrivalent vaccine, meaning every year the flu virus changes so much. We spend the years just studying the flu virus the entire year. Epidemiologists study it, see which strands are the strongest, which strands make people the sickest, what strands we need to be protected with. And each year changes a bit. This last year we have 4 strands that showed that made people pretty ill. That was a part of this vaccine. So it was a quadrivalent vaccine. So that's what that means, quadrivalent. You should get your flu shot annually. So it's not a shot, oh, I had my flu shot 3 years ago, so I should be fine. The flu shot changes so quickly that if you were vaccinated last year, the chances of that vaccine working well the next year are pretty much zero, because it replicates and changes so fast. I think now people are starting to appreciate it a little bit more now that we are, our new normal is dealing with the COVID-19 vaccine and seeing how you were vaccinated, got boosted, and then asked to boost again because the virus keeps replicating, keeps changing. because when people don't get vaccinated and more folks get infected, the vaccine learns to study our immune system, study how it can change to get around a vaccine or to even get around treatments. Vaccines are very nimble, and the flu virus is one of the fastest mutating virus there is. And so that's why it's so important to get that flu shot every single year. It's in your muscle. And so that's why it's, you know, it can get a little sore and red after you get it. We have we have vaccines for 6-month-olds to older. So 6 months and older. And it is safe in pregnancy. And I brought that out because we will be talking about that in a few slides. So we can go to the next slide. Thank you. So let's talk about the misconceptions. I purposely want to address each and every one of these misconceptions because this is often what I hear from my patients. I actually got some of these from my patients, and then I wanted to compare it to other sources that I've seen, and a lot of these were the exact same. And so the first one is the flu vaccine will make you sick. How many people have heard that and say that often, like, if I get the flu vaccine, I'm going to get sick? The truth is, some people will have mild side effects from the flu shot, and it's because that is your immune response. Your immune system is studying the vaccine. So the vaccine is usually like a small portion, like if a virus was like a human, it'd be like a fingertip, you know, some small portion of it. Your immune system sees it, it studies that part. So if it sees anything connected to this part, when it sees the virus, it attacks it. So because your immune system is mounting a response to the vaccine, you usually have some mild symptoms of soreness, redness, swelling to the injection site, low-grade fever. That's because your immune system is working. In 1 or 2 days, that goes away. That was not the flu. If you've ever had the flu, you know what the flu is, and it's not mild symptoms in a couple of days. The next misconception we hear all the time is it's better to get sick with the flu than it is to get the flu vaccine. That is absolutely, positively not true. Even for healthy people, the flu can cause serious health complications and increased risk of hospitalization and death. You can die from the flu even if you don't have any medical issues, because every year the virus, like I said, it mutates, and just depending on your immune response or how strong the virus is that year, it can cause some major complications. Usually a week, you're out of work for a week, you're tired because you couldn't keep food down, or you had to take off work. And so getting the vaccine is going to be way, way better than getting sick from the flu. Trust me, if you've ever had the flu, you'd rather get vaccinated. I don't need a flu vaccine this year because I got one last year. I kind of talked about this a little bit. Because of the rate that it replicates, you have to get the flu shot every year. The CDC and the AFP, which is the American Academy of Family Physicians, recommend an annual vaccine for everyone 6 months and older, because the vaccine efficacy declines over time and the virus is constantly changing. So just keep that in mind. You have to get it every single year. It's not something you can get whenever you feel like it. The flu vaccine will increase my risk for getting COVID. Absolutely not true. Getting sick will make it a little harder, a little easier to get COVID, but there's no evidence that getting the influenza vaccine increases your risk of getting sick from the coronavirus or COVID-19. Those small side effects you get when you get the vaccine does not drop your immune system. It means your immune system is working. Couple more, but I just thought it was very important to make sure that we address all of these things. My immune system is fine, so I do not need to get vaccinated. Also not true. Getting vaccinated also protects those around you, including those who are vulnerable to serious health complications from the flu. So even if you want to take the risk for yourself, you have children that you're around, you have older, more mature adults, 65 or older, even folks who aren't on those ends of the age spectrum. You don't know who you're around and if they're immunocompromised or not. And even with a good immune system or a fully functioning immune system, if you're a healthy person, you can still get pretty sick from the flu, and you can still die from the flu, believe that or not. I can't get the flu vaccine because I'm pregnant. Not true. Pregnant women should actually get the vaccine. And I actually want to talk about that specifically. But all pregnant women should get vaccinated for the flu. It protects the woman. And also has added benefits for the baby up until 6 months after the baby is born. And by 6 months, the baby can be vaccinated themselves. And the last one is I didn't get the flu vaccine early enough in the season, so it's too late for me to get it now. It's best to get it by the end of October, but flu season can last. When I say last, it can be severe up into January, into February, and it's better to get vaccinated later in the season than not at all. So I thought it was important to spend time here so that we can be sure to address each and every one of these misconceptions. If there are any other misconceptions that come up, please put them in the chat. Let's talk about it. Let's discuss what you've heard. And even if you don't think it's a misconception, if you find it to be fact or finding it to be anecdotally true for you, let's share, let's talk about it. Because I'm your community doctor for tonight. And if you have questions about it, let's talk about the vaccine, because I want to make sure that you have all the information that you need and you get your questions answered. Okay, so we can go to the next slide. All right, so I promised you we will speak about pregnant women. And I have a Black pregnant woman because Black maternal morbidity and mortality is a part of our life. It's always been a part of our life, but now it's prime time news and people know more about it because they're realizing how disproportionately Black women are dying and our babies are too, and we're having all of these issues around pregnancy. So why take the chance with the flu in pregnancy? Let's not do that. Pregnant individuals are at increased risk of severe illness and poor outcomes if they get the flu. There's fetal demise, preterm labor, preterm birth. It can cause severe life-threatening illnesses in people, because when you're pregnant, your immune system is already working really hard. Your entire body is physiologically changes in an effort to build a human. And so when you're building a human, you need all the energy put towards doing that. And so you can get sick. And what they mentioned earlier with the flu, you can be tired, fatigued, but you also can get vomit, be nauseous, have diarrhea, lose a lot of fluids. And what's one way you can get pushed into preterm labor is to get dehydrated. You see, they always say pregnant women drink, make sure you're taking in a lot of fluids, make sure you're taking a lot of fluids. But if you can't hold anything down, that can push you into labor and push you into a premature delivery. And so it's just not worth it to take the chance and get the flu while you're pregnant. And it's very safe for you to get the flu vaccine while you're pregnant. So women, all women need to get a flu vaccine, but if you're pregnant, you also need to be thinking about yourself and your child. In the next slide, we'll talk a little bit more about the other indications in pregnancy. So I have this straight from a article by AFP about obstetric care provisions saying that getting the vaccine now, and this was the middle of flu season, and these are a couple of the things that they pointed out. You want to prevent severe illness and hospitalizations when you're pregnant, particularly during cold and flu season, because it's not the only respiratory illness that is affecting us during that time. When you vaccinate and you're pregnant, you make antibodies for your body makes antibodies against the flu vaccine, which you can then pass on. Those antibodies can cross the blood-brain barrier, which is the placenta, and you can pass those on to your baby, your fetus. And then once the baby is born, it has that immunity for a good 6 months. And if you breastfeed, it even can be even more robust protection. And so it's just a good way to protect yourself, protect your child. And so when you are pregnant, getting the flu vaccine is important. And also back to the Black maternal morbidity and mortality. So even if we don't go all the way over to talking about how many, I can even share for myself. When I was pregnant, I ended up on bed rest because of almost going into preterm labor. I did get my flu vaccine, But I did get another illness that made me very nauseous. And so it was hard for me to hold fluids down. And so I also went into almost preterm labor because I was unable to keep these fluids in. And so if you can have a way to not cause dehydration, this is one way you can by not getting the flu shot, not getting the flu virus at all. And just in general, it's just such a scary time. And if you have an opportunity to protect yourself against something, why not do it with the flu shot? It's not new. It's been around for a very long time. We know that it works. There are times where there are better years than others, but ultimately this vaccine has been saving lives, and it's gotten to the point where we've saved so many lives that people feel that enough other people are getting it that I don't have to get it. This whole like herd protection, or they haven't heard of, it's not in the news, or they're not seeing people die of the flu, so they don't think they need it. But it's important, and it's important for this audience in particular, Black women, and our friends and families, to take this to heart. Like I said earlier in one of my slides, I'm a wife, mother, sister, daughter, cousin, because we are the population who is making decisions not only for ourselves, but for our children and our nieces and nephews, our second cousins, our mothers, our fathers, our brothers, our uncles. You know, we're in our community, we're the center, we're the pillars for a reason. Because if auntie goes down, everything goes down, right? If mama goes down, who's going to take care of it? But we make it very important to take care of everyone else. But I focused on pregnant women, but in general, women in general, particularly Black women, need to make it our business to take care of ourselves. So we need to get vaccinated and then make the decision for our family. It's just like getting on the plane. You know, most of us have flown. If you haven't flown, you at least know the whole spiel from the flight attendant. If the cabin loses pressure and the masks come down, please make sure that you put on your mask first before helping someone else. Because if you stop breathing, you're gonna not be able to help the next person. And so even if you haven't decided to make the decision for your entire community, your family, your friends, your girlfriend group, make the decision for yourself, to start with you, to learn as much as you can about it. And being here is step one, and asking questions, not only to, you know, looking it up yourself, CDC website, Maryland government, you know, the health department website, DC public health website, Virginia state health department websites, your trusted primary care physician, your family medicine doctor, nurse practitioner, whoever you go to regularly, have that conversation about the vaccine, about the virus, because the flu will make you sick, and it does affect our community, and we are the ones who are hospitalized and dying. No, I said a lot there, but I mean that, and so I'm hoping that we can have some discussion about that. I think I have maybe one more slide, and then we can open the floor for questions, I think. So these are my references. I did not come up with these things from the top of my head. The reading, and there are people who are doing research, who are collecting information, and I'm just giving it to you because this is what we said we're going to talk about. And the CDC is number one because it's a great place to go. The surveillance reports, they update them. You know, it's February 23rd, and I was able to get information from the week. So it says the week of February 11th. So that entire week. So that's a good source. And then there are other, you know, local sources as well. And so that is the end of my presentation. I know I talked pretty fast and probably went way faster than I was supposed to, but I would love to dialogue a little bit about what I presented tonight.
Dr. Celebi Perkins, thank you so much. I think that a lot of the information you presented, especially relating it back to how Black women function in our communities and the role that we play in general, and how that affects the health of our entire community was absolutely outstanding. Thank you for that. All right, we have a few really great questions in the Q&A.
Okay.
And I just wanted to remind everyone, the PowerPoint is downloadable in the handout. So if you would like to have Dr. Sullivan's wonderful work at your hands to review whenever you feel like it, you can go ahead and download it in the handouts tab. All right, so our first question, oh, that's it, okay. I know why, and I can understand why the Black masses don't get the flu vaccine, past cultural experiences and current racism in the healthcare system. Like that's a big concern for people. The perceived racism in the healthcare system, well, not perceived, let's be real. Is there a way we can discuss sort of being able to even trust the healthcare professionals to know what's best for you when people have this conception that the healthcare system is racist?
Absolutely. The history of what has been done to Black and brown bodies by the medical system, period, by medicine, period, is absolutely appalling. When I read Medical Apartheid, and I'm blanking on the author's name, it almost made me not want to finish my training, because I was like, we did what? And there are people that you learn about in med school and you hold to this esteem. This person developed this new technique, and then you find out that he did it on slaves with no anesthesia. You're like, what? So you're absolutely correct in that historically, there have been horrible things done to Black and brown people. However, things are changing, right? And they only change from places like this, for people like me going into medicine, for you all picking Black and brown doctors to be your doctor, for us having these conversations, and for you as a patient, you are just as important and meaningful as the physician that you see. So you go and you have questions. So you ask your doctor, and they say, why don't we get the vaccine this year? I don't want to get the flu vaccine. Why not? Because historically, Black people have been done wrong by the system. That is true. However, this vaccine is here to save your life. This vaccine could potentially save your life. And though you have a reason not to trust, you have to have, I'm a Christian, so, and that's not to say it's the only way to believe, and but my belief system is, I want the tools here that are going to use to help me, and God put them there to help me. And I have faith that He will protect me. And so if I'm given the desire to be protected and this vaccine is here, I'm going to get the vaccine. If studies are showing, evidence is showing that it's helping me, that is making me better. And so we can continue to use a historical reference of historically Black and brown bodies have been done wrong in medicine, or we can seek to change it. We can seek to be the pillars that say, y'all are going to continue to mistreat us. So we're going to be a part of this. This vaccine needs to be made for me specifically. You need to find out more about my biological makeup, because racism is a social construct, not a biological one, okay? So what you look like does not make up what your biology is. So it is your job, science, to study my biological makeup and make sure this vaccine is effective in my community, that it protects me as an individual, instead of going the ladder saying medicine historically did us wrong, so we're just gonna not have medicine. We're just gonna not take the medicine. Okay, medicine. So we want medicine to be for everybody else but us? No, our job is to change it, is to make the medicine and make the treatments for us, and for us to get past the history. Don't forget the history. Let's be clear. This is a very good point. You can even bring it up with your doctor. But because of that history, medicine owes us. Okay, and so we can't tap out. I'm just not going to do it. We're just going to make medicine work for us, just like we made everything else work for us. Just like the Madam C.J. Walker in business, they told her she couldn't make it, but now she became the first Black female millionaire because someone told her no. Historically, there was racism in business. There's racism in fashion. There's racism in every industry that you can think of. But entertainment. Okay, let's talk. I can go on and on and on about where racism is. But that doesn't stop us from listening to music. It doesn't stop us from buying that Beyonce concert ticket when, you know, Renaissance tour hit the airwaves. We bought that ticket. So I didn't. I can't really afford her tickets. But you get what I'm saying? Like, we have to decide when enough of our past is enough to stopping us from progressing. Because medicine, we still need it. We just need it to be for us. Okay, I'm gonna stop. We can take another question. I hope I answered the question.
You didn't have to stop. You were given a word. Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Oh, and the Beyonce tickets, I can't afford them either. If anybody wants to PayPal me some money for Beyonce ticket, I'm here. But that is such a good point. It's interesting how we will prioritize, you know, certain things, and not prioritize our health sometimes, right? And that's so I'm going to move on to the next question, which I find very interesting. Flu vaccines contain gelatin, so those that don't eat pork, what should they do?
Flu vaccines, so there are a couple different, so the injection has gelatin, and it also has like an egg, so people who have who are vegan or who are allergic to egg, they can't get the injection, but there's also an inhaled version of it that you can get. And so there is a version of it that does not have gelatin. It's a spray. We used to only give it to kids, and they would inhale. It's an inhaled vaccine. So there are other forms of it that you can get if you don't eat pork or egg, or if you're even allergic to egg.
Okay, so for all of our non-pork eating brothers and sisters, there is an option for you. Our next question. So this is about getting the flu vaccine when you are in your first trimester, and the questioner wants to know: is it safe in the first trimester? Will that increase your chances of getting a miscarriage? Things like that.
So your doctor, it's the second, third trimester that you should get it. We do wait till you're out of the first trimester. But it's the doctor, as soon as you become pregnant, we put on the file like when you're supposed to get it, and there's a time frame in which it is. So you're correct, you don't get it in the first trimester, but in the second and third, you are eligible and you should get it. So if you say you get pregnant in the middle of flu season in this first trimester, mask, gloves, be a hermit. Don't let anybody around you until you get that flu shot. Absolutely, positively. But that is a great question, and you're absolutely right.
That is a great question. Thank you for that. All right, we have a few more. What is a good way to encourage and engage our community to feel comfortable and safe in taking the vaccine?
I love a good town hall. You know, I'll go to a community event, forums like this, because just like the questions that were answered, these are real great questions, and we don't talk about them enough. And the doctor's office asks you if you want it, you say no, and you go away, you say yes, and you get it. But generally, we don't have long discussions. So the best way is to have a discussion and also have the flu vaccine available. So, partnering with faith-based organizations, Greek letter organizations, food banks, mosques, even, barbershops and beauty salons. I for one was in a hair shop a couple days ago, and we sit and we talk, and that's a good time to say, well, we'll invite medical students, we'll invite residents, we'll invite a doctor to come, and let's just talk about this flu shot. Like, this is why I don't get it, or where could I find this inhaled flu vaccine this year? This is what I heard about the flu shot this year. I heard it was weak. What you know about that? So I think having real conversations with family, we are family. That's why I said, hey, family, hi, community. I try to be as authentic as I can when I have town halls with my family, because even my biological family, when it came to the flu vaccine, they call me and we talk. And not everybody's going to get it, but everybody should have the information. And the more information you have, the more knowledge you have, and the mind sees what the mind knows. And so we have to talk. We have to talk, and we have to make it available. And the easier it is to get it, the information, the easier it is to get the vaccine, the more likely people will be interested in getting it.
It's an excellent point. Conversations are what bring people to the table. All right, I think we got one more attendees. Please feel free to put more questions in the chat. Miss Selby Perkins has been on fire tonight, and I am sure she wants to hear from all of you. But right now we've got one more, and then if you are okay with it, the last flu influenza webinar we did a little quiz at the end. I asked the members questions, and I, referred them to you, and you can tell them if it's true or false.
Okay.
Yeah. So this last question is, in my experience, HMO physicians are not interested in educating patients, and so that has discouraged me.
And so some of the HMO, not all of them, they have this pressure as a physician. You have this pressure to see a certain number of patients in a certain amount of time, and that time crunch gets there, and you think that they don't care, they don't have time. But if you have questions and you are interested, especially now, back in the day, being a doctor, it was like a paternalistic. You came in, you said what was wrong, the doctor figured it out, gave you something, and you left. Now it's more of a conversation. We're a team. This is what's going on. These are your options. Let's talk about it. And if you're not having the opportunity to talk about it, then you probably got to find a different doctor. Because just like a good beautician, good nail tech, good, butcher, your doctor is a practicing physician, right? And if you can't get your questions answered, then this is not a good relationship, right? This is a relationship where this is my health. We should be able to have a conversation. And so it's always good to have a good primary care doctor. I'm a family physician, so I'm always going to say go for the family physician, because we can treat, anyone from a baby to, our seasoned kings and queens. But a good internal medicine doctor, a good nurse practitioner, a good someone who is going to take the time to build the relationship and know you. I definitely have patients who every year the flu vaccine, I already come ready with is it quadrivalent? How many, strands are we covering this year? Because I have patients who are going to ask all of I have one who wants to know the percentage of, efficacy sometimes. So your relationship should feel that way. And if it doesn't, then that means you just need to find a new doctor. HMOs, there's a ton of different doctors. You find you one that's going to answer the question.
It's a fantastic question and a fantastic answer. All right, so I'm going to do this. We're going to have just two little quiz questions, and then I am going to turn it back over to my co-host. The first question, put your answers in the Q&A. The flu shot is recommended every 2 years. True or false? Okay. All right. First answer is false. Let's see what the good doctor says.
It's false. Every year, every single year, every year. So at the end of September, early October, you should be getting your flu shot. October is a great time to get it.
October is a great time to get it. I'll make a note of that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next one. True or false? Put your answers in the Q&A. If your immune system is fine, you don't need to get the flu vaccine. Oh. Okay. All right, answers are coming in. All right, there was a 100% consensus that is false. What say you, good doctor?
It is false. It doesn't matter if you have a great immune system. You still need to get the flu vaccine. The flu doesn't care if your immune system works. It's going to give it a big whopping battle to get you sick. And again, if you've had the flu once, you're never, ever, 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 ever going to want to have it again. And I'll say this about kids real quick too. I've noticed that a lot of parents have stopped vaccinating their kids. I've had a lot of conversations this year with parents around the flu vaccines. They're like, oh, I got my COVID vaccine. I want to get the flu vaccine too. But that virus, it will make your kid very, very sick. And that's why this year we also had an outage of children's Tylenol and Motrin, because we had a lot of kids with the flu who had fevers of 105, 104, which is scary. And the kids were having fevers for about a week. You would much rather have a child with a little sore arm, with a little runny nose that can go to school than be on that couch with a fever of 105. So put the oxygen mask on yourself and get the flu vaccine for yourself. But when it comes to these babies, it's really hard for me to take care of the babies that have the flu, because I'm like, Mama, why didn't we get this flu shot? You took your chances, and now this baby is sick, and I might have to admit them because they can't hold down anything. So think about your baby, think about your kids, and about how sick they can be if they get the flu. Don't take it. It's not worth it to take the chance with the flu. And we had that one child die this year of the flu. And though that number is not high, I don't want it to be mine. So just make sure that we are considering that when we think about it. Even if you're not sure, just talk to the pediatrician about it. Like, just tell them why you're concerned and just talk about it. Just think about it. That's what I'll ask. Just think about it every year. Just consider it, and don't just say no right away.
It is not worth it to take that risk. What a quote.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you so much again. Wonderful questions as usual. And NCNW members are very smart. So thank y'all for always coming with questions. And of course, our resident expert was able to answer them so eloquently and so honestly, so real and down to earth. I am going to turn it back over to Miss Dr. Linda Hunt. Dr. Hunt.
Yes.
Yes. Are you ready to deliver some closing remarks for us?
I didn't know I had to, but I'd be more than glad to do it. I actually was drafting a question I was going to put into the chat box, and I can read this question by way of my closing remarks. First of all, I wanted to say that I thought it was incredibly critical information that was shared and put so plainly. So I thank you, Doctor, for that. We sometimes don't want to ask because we're afraid of how we'll sound. You brought the information back to a level where we could all understand it and feel comfortable about your dialogue. So I thank you for that. Equally as important, part of my question was, first of all, thank you. And that we need this data and this information to share with others as trusted messengers. And that's what NCNW folks and the folks that we deal with in our community see us as being. We have an obligation to not only speak the truth, but to tell it and tell it and tell it and tell it in as many ways as we possibly can. And so my question actually became, let me see where it is. Yeah, the health equity team is a part of fulfilling our obligations. Are there any other suggestions you have as to how we get the word out on influenza, as well as just general health equity, that you would want to share with us as we close out?
These webinars are fantastic, but the idea I had earlier about just having, continue to have these and going meeting people where they are, so back to school is always a time. It always happens between August and September, depending on the area. But that's a time to talk to parents about, they're talking to them about how to get kids in school, the vaccines they need then, but also plant the seed about, the flu vaccine is coming, in October. Mm-hmm. Do you want to get the flu vaccine? we used to have community events all the time. And when we have the big events and we're not thinking about the flu, in June, we're out of flu season, but Juneteenth celebrations happen all the time. We need to talk about the flu virus when this comes, when flu season comes, let's talk about, our health. And so maybe even picking times when people aren't really thinking about their health or thinking about vaccines, to always have it be a part of the conversation. As a family physician, every patient I see, even if they're there for blood pressure, I'm asking them, did you get your flu shot this year? It's just something that needs to, a conversation that just needs to be had kind of constantly. And so the webinars and the, barbershop, beauty shop talks we used to do, and partnering with community. I teach community-based medicine at Georgetown Medical School, and community partners are the key. And community partners love partnering with national organizations. And so in that community partner could be the after school program at the elementary school. We used to be latchkey kids, sending some home with them, or sponsoring, a afternoon lunch for the parents. So just meeting people where there are, getting more community partners involved, and tapping into folks like me who are, we committed ourselves to medicine, but we committed ourselves to medicine because we have a motive to change it. That historical context is not lost on me. It's a reason I'm very purposeful in the passion and the why. And so just making sure that we're looped in. And so this opportunity has been a blessing. So thank you for honoring me with this opportunity. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. The bottom line is that we're better together, first of all. And that's something that Good Health Wins continuously talks about. But equally as important, there's no one way to do it. Every opportunity that we get to spread the word, including this webinar, is just so vital to our success. Well, thank you for that.
All right, everyone. I hope that you thoroughly enjoyed this amazing webinar. I hope that you take these messages to heart about how to take care of yourselves and the people you love. I hope that you take the messages to heart about what the flu vaccine means for the Black community, and about how we are infected at higher rates, but we don't have to be, right? I love your nod. So I would like to close us out. Again, we host these every 2 weeks, the Influenza Town Halls, and you can find us at ncnw.org for any updates and information. I would like to thank Dr. Linda Hunt and Dr. Latasha Celebi Perkins for your time tonight. I would like to thank all the attendees for your time tonight. And on that note, good night, everyone.